Welcome to another episode of Crypto Chit Chat. I'm Carmen Crypto, and in today's episode, I'm sitting down with Zach, Captain PoundTown from Affinity. In today's show, we're going to learn all about his crypto journey, and also he's going to give us some advice on what are the best things to do when you see the price falling of one of your favorite projects. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Crypto Chit Chat Show, Captain Poundtown, also known as Zach. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's an honor.
It's been a fantastic experience learning about Affinity because we met back in November when Disco Burn Token first started, and you were one of our first contestants in our burn party. And luckily for me back then, I got a bag of Affinity, and you guys are doing wildly successful. And I thought it would be a perfect time to bring you onto the show for the DYOR token crew to kind of learn who you are and what your crypto story is. So, why don't we start there? How did you get into crypto, and what were you doing before then?
So my crypto experience actually, excuse me, started 5 years ago. A little bit, sorry, 7 years ago, but I didn't buy my first crypto until about 5 years ago. So it first started, I actually had a good friend who I worked with. He was mining Bitcoin. He told me it was the wave, it was going to be the next big thing, and I kept calling him a fool consistently over and over and over again. We're working together and he would just always tell me like, dude, you're smart, you got to get on this is the way. Like, nah, man, like that's just, I'd say it's too complex for me, but it just seems like a lot. So I totally didn't mind it. And moving to 2017, I want to say I thought I missed the Bitcoin wave, right? So that was after the big pump to 20,000, and it came, obviously everybody knows it came back down, and I was like, ah, that's it, that's a little bit. And even now, right? Looking back on it, I wish I did. It was about what 4,000 a coin, and right now you'd be sitting pretty. But at the time, I was looking at something, and I'm actually still very heavily invested in it. Is a coin called XLM. I don't know if you ever heard about them. They're called Stellar Lumens. They have their own blockchain.
Of course, we know about XLM. They're like huge this time around.
Yeah, XLM is amazing. I've actually been invested and holding. I have not sold anything of XLM since 0.003 is when I first bought,
Wow.
and I love it. I love everything that they're doing. Their blockchain is magnificent, and that's why we'll talk about SafeMoon just for a quick second. Why I gravitated to SafeMoon was initially what I believed that they were going to do with putting voting on a blockchain is kind of what the same thing that they're doing when it comes to product management and stuff like that. I think it's fantastic. We need that bridge from the real world to, of course, the crypto world. So that's where my origin story begins. Again, so I bought my first coin, sorry, was XLM back in 2017, and I've never looked back.
You know, you said something that stands out to me as a common theme of people who step into this space, which is they know somebody that got them in here. And sometimes it takes a long time for that person to convince a friend, a family member, a coworker that crypto is something that's going to stick around. What do you think it was from a non believer standpoint to, okay, let me see what this is about? Like, do you remember the moment that you dipped your toe in? Was it signing up for Coinbase or was it working with your friend to open up a wallet? What was your first step into crypto?
So it was working with that same friend, setting up a wallet, and it was to the point where a couple years later, after we're talking about it, I actually left that company I was working with to move into my more sales and marketing experience as a general manager. And with that, I don't want to say I had more money to spend, but I had more money to put in different areas. And I was like, you know what? I got a couple thousand bucks. If I lose it, I lose it. It's just like the regular market. I had the same mentality. And, why not? And if it really is the future, then, well, I'll win. And if it doesn't, then I can always make that money back. So really, I don't want to say I grew up a little bit, but I guess that's what I did. I just realized going into newer things and change my mind's eye changed a little bit into where we might going as a country and even just like humanity as a whole.
Yeah, I've only been in crypto for just a little over a year. So last year on January 10th, I signed up for Coinbase for the first time. And I didn't have any real life friends that knew anything about crypto, but I was brave, right? So, I had to learn all of it by myself and kind of go through so many experiences. When your friend onboarded you, did he, like, give you any warnings of things to look out for, or did you fall into experiencing your first scam in crypto by yourself? Do you have a
Uh,
memorable moment?
a memorable scam actually didn't come until DeFi, of course, right? I say there's multiple iterations of DeFi, but I say DeFi on the Binance Smart Chain. Um, yeah, I really had done really good. I prided myself on just sticking to blue chips and, thinking, I don't want to say I was a maxi to these things, but I just didn't see the point. I guess it comes down to not doing enough research, right? I just didn't have enough research under my belt about these things. And so I finally stepped into DeFi. Well, I was with SafeMoon. SafeMoon was the one that bridged me into this area. And I loved it. I really saw how. Are you familiar with the stock market and the OTC market?
Oh, yes.
Awesome. So I look at DeFi, at least on BSC, as the OTC market. 1 in 1,000 companies will make it out of the OTC market and actually get listed onto the regular stock exchange. So I love that though, because I love the underdog. The underdog mentality is something I've lived off my entire life. So I was like, hell yeah, this is the space to be. So probably about 2 months into trading on BSC and exploring the space, I ran into a token called Beast Doge. And of course, it had Doge tied to its name. And I actually really like the project's vision. What they were doing is a portion of the taxes was going back into a wallet that was supposed to then funnel into paying. I don't know if you like sports or fighting sports. I know you're in Las Vegas, so obviously UFC is really big out there. Um, so those fighters, they they get paid very poorly. So a portion of the token was supposed to go back into paying fighters, and the grand scheme of it, and especially being on the marketing side of things, I thought it would take off. And it did, and then it rubbed. So that
Oh,
was
no.
my first time. Yeah, that was my first time getting rugged. And actually, to this day, I think that's my only time. I wasn't in the token that happened to today, so I can't classify that one. So yeah, that is the only time I've actually been scammed through crypto. Knock on wood, only one time so far.
Well, that's impressive to only have 1 rug. I've been lucky, I guess, to experience a honeypot, a rug, being the face of a token and having it rugged. It's like, it's a human experience, and I've talked about this before with other, developers and leaders, but, each person reacts to a rug pull experience differently. When you experienced it, did you know that that existed, or was that something that was a shock to you that a token would even do that? Were you aware
I
beforehand?
I knew that they existed, but of course, me being the guy, which never happened to me, I had that mentality. It would never happen to me. My investment mentality, or I have a really strict trading plan. And by that trading plan, again, so far only one rug, I'd like to say is pretty good. I'm just super, super strict with my money. And it happened to me. So there was some type of shock to it because obviously now I'm not invincible, right? But on the flip side of things, it did make me change my trading plan and become a little bit more, even more strict with my money and what I do. And I'm sure you would agree that passive income is the goal. So anything and everything that might propel me to that area safely, I'm going to invest in. So I definitely have opened my eye even more after the scam than before.
Yeah, I often find that origin stories of projects, when I listen to AMAs or when I talk to the team, a lot of projects form like the teams because of a shared experience with rug pulls and scams and malicious entities in this space. So, having experienced at least one rug, so you have one under your belt. How do you think that that influenced your leadership capabilities and your mission when you became a CMO for Affinity?
Yeah, exactly. So um, it really comes down to not wanting something to happen to you, or not wanting to do to something to somebody that has happened to you, right? So I don't wouldn't want to rug my investors because it's happened to me. Um, I mean, not just because of that moral. I mean, it's just wrong to do. Uh, you should be an established company, and if you're coming into this space with malicious intent, then there shouldn't be any room for you. So I can comfortably look at the project and our company and say, I can never ever do that to my people. I can never make them feel the way that I felt losing money that day. Whether it's $5 or $20,000, that money could be a lot to somebody. So investor the investor mindset is really all that we care about at the end of the day. When we talk as a core team, it's how are our investors going to benefit the most out of this, not how are we. So again, at the end of the day, I just couldn't ever imagine doing that to anybody. It's just rude, and like, why did you come into this space
Yeah.
with that intent?
I find that same thing, that resonates with me for a couple of reasons because, when we see the effort that, scammers put into marketing a project, making the contract look authentic, starting up a community and gathering so many, members in it and totally building that hype. Like it's a process that they could go through for a legitimate token and have wild success. You can definitely, it's a shame to watch them, scam and run with the money and have no intention to have longevity for the project. While
Mhm.
other projects that have true utility, that have fierce teams that want to develop trust with their investors, that want to accomplish things to contribute to the crypto space, they're kind of left on the sidelines, right?
Yes.
Because what ends up happening is that scammers who continuously run that cycle of dazzling people and then running off, they pop up, right? Again, it's the same people that do it over and over. And they pop up again with a whole new brand, with a whole new concept, and they have the money to hype it up again. And so you're funneling all of this money from investors into a sector that is not real, and it's leaving projects that have real utility, that are trying to be organic, that maybe don't start off with a lot of capital in order to grow that type of marketing from day one. It puts us in a disadvantage, it feels like, right? And so for like you and I are both leaders of tokens and we just believe so much in our projects and we're working the organic growth. We're working on building a true community that's going to add value to the investors, right?
Mhm.
It's just a shame, and it feels like you're fighting an uphill battle. So when you take a look at your role as a leader in your project, what do you think were some of the challenges that you had to overcome in terms of building trust with your community to show that you guys are a true project? Because you guys talk about you guys are a business, right? And you talk and you really highlight how you're running the token as a business with transparency. So,
Mhm.
what further things do you do to build trust with your community?
This, and I can say that I speak for the entire core team on this. We all have some type of business experience and or security experience, and they both would play into this. Um, Transparency. Transparency is so key, and it's so easy to give. And people really downplay how hard it is just to be honest. Like, you can look up any of our backgrounds. Chris and I are truthfully the only people who are docs completely, first name, last name. But you can look up both Chris and I, and there's nothing going to be nothing but positive things behind us. Um, we're just average Joes, you know. If you have nothing to hide, why hide? You know, and it really sounds simple, but people make this so complex for no reason. You know, so putting all of ourselves on the website, going in person to make these business meetings, going to conventions, because we are a business. And I said this earlier, where there has to be centralization to decentralization. So what we mean by that is, it's not necessarily the investors, but the people who run these projects slash companies. Not all of them are established LLCs, but the ones that are ours, we'll call them companies. Um, those people have to put themselves on the forefront. You know, Google, Apple, Microsoft, these people didn't get to where they were hiding behind an NFT profile picture. You know, at the end of the day, if you're providing real utility and real products to this world, then you need to put yourself out there. You have to, because people are gonna want to see your products. So, uh, again, going back into the question, it's not hard being honest, and we just hold true to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've constantly like racked my brain in terms of trying to understand, you know, back when I first started, why was I okay with, getting into a chat, muted by the way, for a launch with VCs and not really taking the extra effort to do my own research and try to vet, who the leadership team was. And I think one of the foundational reasons I have found is that when new investors come into this space, they're really relying on skill sets that they have outside of crypto. And typically, when you go and do business, outside, I'm not looking to validate the CEO of the company. I'm not looking to validate, who owns Macy's before I make a transaction, right? Um, Most people don't have a day to day relationship with their out of cryptocurrency investments, right? It may be something that they just set it and forget it. It's a 401k, it's a Roth. And so they don't come in with investing behaviors. Instead, they walk in with purchasing behaviors. And so when they see websites and social media and stuff like that, that to them is a sign of authenticity. It's not a common habit for us to go and find out who's running the show and seeing, I want to talk to the CEO, I want to talk to the dev, get them on the VC, right? Or why is their picture not on the website? Those are not behaviors that are going to be inherent to new investors coming in. So I have found that projects often have to take on the burden and the role of not just presenting their project as an opportunity for an investment, but they also have to teach people what to expect and how to protect your community. Because if you're building a community, you also want to empower them to not like get their wallet hacked, right? So they lose all their affinity or disco
Right.
burn token. And even
Exactly.
some of the most tenured people can have that experience because there's only so far you can go with vetting. And in this space, we're still emerging all of these different entities that are supposed to, hopefully come to fruition and give us some guidance, right? But they're still working on growing themselves. And the edification of that project is still yet to come because it's going to take time. So I just find it wild, when I'm talking to leaders that this is something that, regardless of how long you have been in this space, it's something you need to practice every single day, right?
Yes, no, without a doubt. Uh, that's the other part of what we hammer on is security. You have to have some sense of security with all of this. Never hook up to malicious sites, D apps, anything like that. Um, the more that even Google and Apple, Google's obviously pretty open source, but Apple will eventually open up their mind to crypto and things of that nature. So even our D apps will have some type of centralization. So you know that you're downloading the right D app, but as long as it's through the App Store. Obviously, I know Google is very open source. You can almost put anything on the Google App Store at this point in time. Um, but Apple is a little bit more locked down in that sense. But again, centralization to decentralization.
So from Beast Doge being your first rug pull, have you ever invested in other meme tokens? And do you find, that that is a community that still has, an opportunity to remain in the BSC space? What do you find like meme tokens can contribute to cryptocurrency?
You know, this is a tough question. I think that's a double-sided question. I'm going to answer the end first. I think everybody has an opportunity to add some type of utility or use to the space or the real world through a tokenized format. 100%. But do I believe in the meme nature and attaching to a name? Absolutely not. And I'm going to give you an example, and I don't point fingers, and anybody who may listen to this, I don't think that, but Everrise, you familiar with Everrise?
Yes, I am.
So they just recently changed their name to Everrise in you. Why? Like literally, why? You are already an $80 million market cap company. Just, and I mean this in the most loving way, but just do more, create more, be more innovative, and more people will come. You don't have to change your name to wrap yourself around something else to be bigger. I think that's ridiculous to me. Um, like going so far out of your way to change just your name purposely for a meme. So do I think the meme culture should go? 100%. There has to be more utility, which I believe that per se, if you do want to say, Beastos, like I did invest in Beastos because they fit into my trading style, into my trading plan, where you got some type of passive income, but also had some type of utility, and if marketed right and tokenized and pushed to the right UFC companies, the token could have taken off and they would have done good things. Um, so it's possible, but it's instead of that 1 in 1,000, to me, it's like a 1 in 100,000 that meme token is going to pop off and it's going to do what it intends to do.
Yeah, I've often found that, the meme token space, it really lives here in the BSC. Like the moment that Elon tweets, you'll find some form of, it's buzzwords that are now in total, like, 15 tokens that pop up within the hour, right? And
It's
so there's
funny.
a space for that, but then the behaviors that are being, fostered through that process is that people are looking for the initial pump, right? For the
Yes,
initial gain. It's about being there day one and kind of goes back to one of the reasons why I found myself in the BSC was because once you learn blue chip tokens, and I can agree with you, like, I was with the Cardanos and getting Bitcoin and Ethereum and XLM, and, like those were on my list. And then after a while, well, I started finding that, okay, there's tokens out there that are not on exchanges. And then it dawned on me, okay, I need to learn how to use a swap. Well, I learned
right.
how to use Uniswap, but the gas fees are ridiculous, crazy. So, more research, more research, more research, and all of a sudden, I find the Binance Smart Chain, and I'm like, "Wow, okay, this is a lot easier for me." And, I'm learning, and so I'm trading with small amounts in order to make sure that I'm overcoming my learning curve for the technology on how to execute these transactions. But the gas fees are beautiful, right?
Of course.
But then in the
Exactly.
sense But then in the sense, okay, here I am in the space where tokens are born. And that's always in the news headlines where you hear, "Oh my gosh, I invested $19 and back a year ago and now it's 19 million." And you're like, "I want a piece of that," right? And you get really excited. And so then you start getting the pixel tracking as you research through the internet, right? And now you're being exposed to things like this new token coming out, this and this and that.
Right.
Well, everybody who's listening to this, we're experiencing this, now. You might be experiencing this now, but I experienced this like a year ago, and this is kind of like how we all find out what's happening in this space. Now, I found out that number one, marketing is a pay for play, and once I figured that out, that completely changed my vision about how to vet projects and what I'm looking for. It completely flipped a switch for me. And
Yeah.
then on top of it, to understand that investor behaviors, that I could believe in a project and I could really love it and I could love the utility and I could, be engaged in the chat and I could fairly like, the leadership and their direction. But then there's going to be a whole group of investors who come in on day one, buy it up, and then in a couple of hours, they're gone. They're
Yep.
gone, and
Exactly.
now my project, that I believe in is like, falling. The chart is falling, and what happens to new investors when charts fall? We get emotional and we panic. And so what
Yep.
happens? We start selling off too, right? It's like,
Exactly.
how do
Yeah.
we avoid these behaviors? Do you think it's through education? Or do you think there's another medium that we can take to try and stop this craziness that happens? And it's almost a given that it's going to happen. Like we all experience it and we expect
It
it.
is. It is a given. I agree. Um, and I do think that education would play a big role, partly, so in multiple forms. So you should obviously people should be educated on crypto and this general sense of what you just said of people buying on hype and just selling to take their profits. You will see that every single pump. And again, whoever's listening, I promise you, every single pump that you see, there will be sellers because that's just how the market is. For every buyer, there has to be a seller. But with that as well, if you can educate people, I guess it depends on what you're holding. If you're getting passive income, it's a lot easier to hold. Um, but on the flip side of things, learning how to take out profits, it's you should always take profits on the way up and not on the way down. So if you have to take out money, learning how to not harm a chart. And then on the flip side of things, is you also hit on it, was the psychology. People need to learn the true psychology of trading. People learn about charts and they learn about the tokens and or the companies. That's cool until you get dumped on, right? Until you're panicking and you don't know why and you're feeling all this stuff. Those are real emotions and that happens to everybody. And there's a lot of good psychology books out there too in the terms of trading. Literally, I think it's the what was the first one I read? It, I actually think it's called The Psychology of Trading. It's literally the name of it. Um, I would recommend it. You really should know yourself before you go investing, because if you are an anxious person and if you are always on the high gear, maybe you should take more of a long-term play. But if you're calm, you can watch the minute by minute charts. Maybe day trading and swing trading is for you. So I think education is a huge piece of it. I agree.
I love that you said, learn what kind of investor you are. Um, there's so much protection that we need in terms of, walking into this space. You got to understand the behaviors of the pump and dump. I didn't understand what fudding was, in the beginning. And so
Mhm.
when things were negatively said in the chat, it was like, whoa, that was just an immediate like turn off for me. And then I learned, well, there's people who that's how they live. Like that's all they do all day is they
Yeah.
want to come in and they want to create that fear, that uncertainty, that doubt, right?
Yep.
And then even go further, the competitiveness that exists in this space also creates, social instances in which people come in, they want to harm your project, right? Maybe they're a competitor. So they're going to come in and they're going to FUD in order to hurt your project, in order to give them an advantage. And that's unfortunate too. But when you're a new investor, you don't know these things. So it's like, how do we equip everyone with the tools to understand that they need to try and stay objective, but to your point, it should really resonate with people to identify what type of investor you are. So find the resources and determine, you know, when to turn off the emotion, when to stay objective, and how to proceed to do your research, right? So if you see a chart falling and on one of your investments, what are the first steps that you take to determine or to uncover why that is happening? Where do you go to?
Bitcoin. Look at Bitcoin. See what Bitcoin's doing. If you look at Bitcoin and Bitcoin's falling, well, there's a good chance it's not your project or it's not your company, especially if it's tanking. Depending on where you invest, whether it's say BSC or ERC, that'd be the next token. So personally, most of my investments are in the Binance Smart Chain. So after I check Bitcoin, I'm gonna go check BNB. Sometimes BNB does outweather the storm, but truthfully, 8 times out of 10, it doesn't. Um, so that's what I do. And then of course, third is when I'm gonna go check the actual chart. Check to see how many sells there are. If the chart's falling and there's more buys than sells, then that's just the market. But then if there is sells to buys, that's when you want to check your social medias, whether it be your Telegram, Discord, Twitter. Check with the people of the team, get in contact with the team, see if there's maybe some whale sell, right? That is a very real thing, and that's something to go over too. That not everybody holds forever. That's just the real reality. Everybody has a selling point. If it's a token, of course, it doesn't have reflections. So that's another thing to check with as well. If you educate yourself, right, and you go into BSC scan and you can do even just a simple glance of BSC scan, you can check to see if that person was just holding a large amount and simply let his bag go. And typically, with a whale sell, will be a few other paper hands, as we like to call them, quote unquote. Um, and then you can just determine really where the company is going from there. But 9 times out of 10, though, it's really just the market, honestly. If a company is holding strong, it's the market.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that happens a lot, right? Because you see, especially the days where there's a flash crash. The last flash crash that happened when BNB went down, $70, you start to see people pop up in your Telegram chat. Who's selling? What's happening? Why is this going down? Right? So you know that they've got the great behaviors of like, let's go back to the project's chat or medium of communication, and let's ask questions. And so for us, we decide this is a great opportunity for us to educate that person. Right, to say, let's take a look at the chart, like hop into VC, let's take a look and find that there has been no sales, but let's understand how the contract works and why the price decreases when the market crashes, right? Especially we start having conversations about liquidity pairing. It's paired to BNB. So if BNB goes up, we see a price increase. If the BNB goes down, we see a price decrease. And, there's nothing to be concerned about. And that, let's educate, educate, educate. Sometimes we have to hold the hands. But you have delivered to us like three really great advices. you know, Come in and take your profits on the way up, not on the way down, which is huge, right? Because some people go, "Oh, I'm gonna wait until the chart goes down to determine whether or not this is my time." But you need to be actively deciding when you wanna take profits so that you're not doing it on the red candles if you are a long-term investor of that project, because it can hurt. It can actually cause something what we call the I don't want to say FOMO, but when people start selling on red candles, it can spark a whole avalanche of people
Panic
selling on the
selling.
red candles. And it's a crazy amount. And so if you're part of that and you're doing it on the way down, you could actually add to that problem and you're making it worse.
Yeah, without a doubt. I agree. You hit it right on the head with that. Um, but it does tie back into the second portion, right? We talked about it over and over again here is education, just the psychology of trading and simple knowledge of crypto trading at least. Each network has their own specifics, but with BSC, you should know what BSC scan is. You should be have some type of contact with the team, whether it's through newsletter or through social media, and then also have general knowledge of the overall market.
Yeah, I agree. So we talked about taking profits the right way, understanding yourself as an investor and understanding like which type of investor you are, and then dig into what kind of behaviors can help protect you in those types of trades. And then also to, when you need to do the research on what's affecting a token, take a look at the market and then start to drill down all the way to get in touch with the token itself. That's one of the fantastic things about being in this space, I find. When I invested in the blue chips, there was no way I was talking to any of the CEOs or leadership. Here in the BSC, because we're growing and you're a first mover and we're pioneers in this space, I could get into a token and I could be talking to someone like you. I could be talking to the CEO. I could be talking to the lead dev in a VC. And that is something that is so wildly different in most other ways of investing, right? So we got to see that as an advantage and don't miss the opportunity to leverage that to your advantage as an investor. So constantly get connected and reach out, reach out, reach out so that you have a way to get your questions answered because it won't always be that way, right? As we continue to grow these projects, we'll have to get more, streamlined in terms of the communication. But this is the space we live in, so it's an exciting part. And I think I have found some investors, they reach it back out and they're like, I've never spoken to a CEO before. This is fantastic. And they get super like starstruck.
Yeah.
but but everybody needs to know that's the beautiful part about this space is that teams that are legitimate and transparent and want to build trust, they want access to their members. They want to have that conversation. They're also open to the feedback, right?
Yes, yeah, without a doubt. And I'm sure you guys understand this as well as we do, that we're built off our community. You cannot get anywhere. No company has got anywhere. The term "the customer is always right" is a term for a reason, because people always bring that up in times of people being mad usually, but it really is true, because if we didn't listen to our customers, if we didn't listen to people's problems, then we would never adapt. We would never get better. So we really have to listen to our investors. We have to listen to our community 100%. Every single thing they say, whether we agree or not, we have to take it in. Um, so yeah, that's exactly put.
Yeah, I love tokens that build a culture, some kind of value system, a mission statement. They engage their community and actually want to have fun with them. And that's one of the things that I loved about you guys. You guys have those Affinity Fridays. And so you guys kind of let loose and you guys have fun with your investors. And it's about celebrating, those milestones and the fact that you are a community of investors that are backing a total mission that the project has. When you take a look at, your contributions to crypto as a leader and your journey, what do you foresee in the future of crypto? What gets you most excited about what cryptocurrency can offer the world?
You know, it's more about what the blockchain can offer the world. There's so many things that can be stored on the blockchain, and I love to go to voting. Voting is my favorite thing to talk about on the blockchain, because if that was materialized, it would take over the world. I mean, you don't have to get into the politics of our own country, but I don't really need to say anything more than that. We know what happens in the voting in our country. If that was on the blockchain, and 3 million votes just couldn't appear on somebody's doorstep overnight and say that these are for this person, like, that's just not how it works, right? So it's more so, how can we integrate the blockchain into everyday use? How can we store goods? We're a long way of, and when I say store goods, I mean like serial numbers for goods, like warehouses and stuff of that nature. Um, Data, right? So storing data on a blockchain is super slow. As you would know, like, with you can't have a social media platform on a blockchain. It'll happen though. It will happen. We all know it'll happen. That we always grow. We're always adapting, and So one day, that's where we will be at, and that's what I'm excited for. Just the innovation that will come. We're Affinity Innovations for a reason. We're going to have our own innovative products, but there's still so much room. You guys have your own innovative ideas of bringing people together and helping projects. Um, Shoot, sorry,
Y
off the top of my head, I
yeah,
can't think of
you
another
spoke
project,
you
but
spoke right to my heart because, DBT loves doing the blockchain voting, right? We actually kinda create that dichotomy between running a social poll on Twitter and then what it looks like when you actually put your money where your mouth is and do a blockchain vote that the blockchain never lies, right? Because it's just so
exactly,
transparent. So yeah, stuff like that gets me excited too. And when I think about the future of crypto, I'm thinking about first, I need to be able to expect the unexpected and the impossible to happen because I think oftentimes we really relate the journey of crypto to some of the past experiences we have with two specific things, the internet, which I'm old enough to remember pre-internet, especially in my country, right? I was barely in high school when the internet hit my country in Saipan. And so for us, we had to go to the local library in order to use it, and there was only 10 computers there. And so for me, I, like, remember that experience, and I remember what it looked like, there was
right.
no fantastic, like, out of this world dazzling graphics or anything. It
Of
was a
course, it's
dial-up, it
dial
was
up.
slow,
Yeah.
and, today would I have ever thought that I would be, sitting down, working in cryptocurrency, talking to CEOs and getting on video and going live streaming immediately to connect with people and the technology is allowing us to develop relationships, right? And through those relationships we start to build ways to accomplish some big world goals. So I get excited about that. Now my background also is in mobile wireless. We went
Oh,
from a big brick phone, right, or the Nokias,
yep.
those fun phones, to
Uh-huh.
I can do everything on my phone. It's in fact, it's more I use it more than my laptop or my computer in most cases. So,
Yeah.
I always love to pick the brain and find out, like, where could we imagine cryptocurrency going? Because right now, as pioneers, the people around us that are not a part of this bubble, they don't think it's real. They
Yep.
don't understand that, to them, they feel like there's no real product here. And yet they use debit cards and credit cards. It's not fiat money like the dollar bill. It's not, they they take voicemails with no like physical phone other than the mobile phone that's there. They take emails. We no longer send letters too much. Everybody's going paperless. Like they're already adopting things that make sense to be completely electronic, but they still don't wanna take that next step to understand crypto, right? It doesn't make
Yes.
logical sense. So I think that's one of the burdens that we have too, right? Is to show people that with dedication and a purpose and a mission and a community of pioneers behind you, that we will add to this space, regardless of what it is that you're doing. Just staying here and being a part of it is going to help the bigger picture in the future.
Yeah. I honestly, I feel targeted a little bit on that one. I felt you just went right back to my past because that was exactly me. I was working in mobile wireless at this time. At that time when I was working with my buddy, and as you literally just hit it on the head. Mobile wireless is one of the fastest growing industries ever. I want to even say more than the internet. Every single year, and especially being in the industry, you see how fast these phones really grow. Um, and that was kind of like what my buddy hammered on me. He's like, dude, how can you be a part of this industry and not want to invest in crypto or not want to learn about crypto? It just made no sense to him. And I think that was probably part of my turning point as well, where I was like, that's right. Like, shit, excuse me. I am a part of this industry. And uh, I guess it's probably time for me to take that leap.
Yeah, wireless sales for me was it was amazing. I was in there, I was in that industry before BlackBerry came out with internet on their phones. So this is like the old
Awesome.
school curves, right, with the
Yep.
side dial. And then I think I was in it for maybe about 1 or 2 1 year before it started really rolling out. I mean, this was the age for me of razors, like Motorola razors.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so it's like, yeah, I got a 1.3 megapixel camera, yo, like,
Yeah.
and, and people would still come in and sometimes I was profiling people. I was young at the time. I
Yeah.
was
Me
profiling
too.
people and
Yep.
people that, were, over 30, 40, or anything. Gosh, now I feel awful because, I'm in that age. But I would be like, oh, let's go get a Samsung T219. It's like the flip phone.
Right.
It doesn't do much, right? Because you just need to make calls and, or like kids, right? If they just wanted to access their kids, it's like, get them a simple phone while I'm rocking my Sidekick or my G1. And, it's like, "Hey, guys, look, I've got, like, a 30-second clip of Family Guy on my phone. How cool am I?" And nowadays, we're like, "Man, I have access to everything. I don't really need internal storage. Everything's on the cloud." It has vastly grown, and I love that because the internet has grown, right? And now we're getting into Web3 and all that kind of stuff. But I think we completely felt it in our chest, the growth of the mobile phone. And we developed
Yeah.
behaviors where people were hungry for the next one, the next one, the next one. And
Right.
what they can do in the power of our hands, some of them are more expensive now than a laptop, than a computer, even
I
with a
know,
graphics
it's
card.
crazy. It's and some of them, I mean, I haven't seen as I've been out of the game for 2, 3 years now, 2 years. And before I left, the Samsung Note had something like 8 gigs of RAM on it and 128 gigs of storage. Like that's a laptop. It's literally a
Yeah.
standard issue laptop.
Now
It's
that's my
crazy.
jam. I'm a Note user, and, last week was my birthday, and for my birthday, I got the Z Fold, the
Yep.
Z3 Fold.
Yeah.
Amazing. What
It's
I
good.
find in mobile and this is like we're going on a tangent here, but I love it 'cause I love finding mobile buddies. Um, we can't decide if we want small screens or big screens. We
Yes.
really can't.
Nope, I've gone back and forth multiple times, and
Yep.
I went on, I'm same with Apple and Android. The last Apple I had was the iPhone 6 until all the way up until the Note 9, and then I was like, you know what, I should go back to Apple, and I actually conceded this past year, went to the iPhone 12, and I've hated it. I miss my Note. I wish I could go back to it. My daughter has my Note now, so now I'll never see it again. Um,
The world is divided, Android and Apple, you're one or the other, and sometimes, relationships are broken up. Myself and my spouse, we are on opposite spectrums, and we agree we'll never let it come between us. But I'm excited to see how cryptocurrency I feel like it's the next wave of, the internet, mobile wireless, and it just got quicker and quicker. Adoption of technology like this helps
Yeah.
bring people together. I mean, the crypto family that I have grown in the past year has been fantastic and wild. And it's because of the technology that we have in our hands, right? And it's because we find passion in it, and then we find other people that are passionate about it, and we develop relationships and opportunities to continue to contribute to this space. So, when you think about the future of crypto, tell me about Affinity and what are you guys doing to contribute to that future?
So simply put, I'll just go over our baseline product because I can talk for another hour and a half just about Affinity. Um, with our baseline product, what we're aiming to do is simply curve the adoption rate of crypto. We want to make it more simple and more secure for new users and even old users to come and buy any token of their choice. We also want to give them a secure way to send those tokens of those choices. Um, whether you're a new investor or not who's listening, you would I implore you to look into the rate in which that people fail their sending of their currency. So what I mean by that is our peer-to-peer transactions. So if I were to send Carmen crypto right now, I would have to do it through our wallet addresses, and a standard rate would have to do it through our wallet addresses and hope that when I copy and paste it, I have the right address copied into the two and I send it away. It has been, it has, sorry, it's happened time and time again that people have sent money to contract addresses. They leave a number, they leave a letter off. They are troopers and try to copy it themselves and turn a zero into an O. It happens. There's a cool little statistic out there with just Bitcoin alone that 20% of Bitcoin has been lost through failed sending. That's crazy. And imagine
That
crypto as a
is.
whole. I mean, what was it? Just 2 weeks ago, a gentleman lost 400 and just over $400,000 in wrapped ETH from sending to the contract address. If he was using our platform and had just two simple usernames for his wallet addresses, he would have not lost his money. So,
That's another good piece of advice, right? For people. I mean, I had to learn that early on, and it was because I witnessed it happening to me. The first time that somebody had to send me something, first they did a test send. So they didn't send out everything, they just sent like $1 and they wanted to confirm that it was good.
mhm,
And so once I confirmed, yes, I got that, then they sent everything else. And I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." And so that's a good practice that everyone who's listening should also have is that if you're not using platforms like Adapt and you're doing it the old school way, we call it old
yeah,
school, but you're doing it the long way. Make sure that you're testing it out first, right? Because you don't want to lose it all and you don't want it to go somewhere else because it's impossible to find after that. But you guys are really trying to accomplish a big ask in this space because the technological learning curve it takes to get KYC'd on an exchange, figure out like if you're gonna do BSC tokens, you gotta buy your Binance, you gotta get it into your wallet, you gotta swap it for Smart Chain, then you gotta make sure that you're getting the correct contracts. And that's where like you miss one of these steps or you fall into a non-authentic looking resource, right? Like for the contract, if you went to the wrong address, you're pulling the wrong contract or it's a scam
mhm,
site or a scam
right,
TG. Like they just look identical
yes,
nowadays.
they do.
Then you can find yourself hicking like with a hiccup, right? And it goes bad, bad. So you guys are trying to offer a solution that's really going to benefit so many of us. That's huge.
Yeah, it really is, and that's more so even going into further additions to adapt. We will have this to a mobile app where someone can simply just download a mobile app and on iOS and Android. We won't have complete on-ramping yet. When you do with on-ramping, there's a lot of legalities that go behind that. But also in future versions, we're going to offer you the ease of just cross-chain bridging. So say you do go through that KYC, which typically doesn't take too long, say through Cash App, right? Go through Cash App, you buy your Bitcoin. You could then send that Bitcoin to your wallet. And through our system, you could change that Bitcoin for BNB seamlessly with just a couple steps. And a couple steps being you go in, you select how much Bitcoin, what you want to convert it to, and it's swapped. That's not happening right now. That is something we're building out, but that just goes into the more ease of use. And when it comes to the sending of tokens, so anybody who's listening really can understand the picture I'm trying to paint for you. Imagine it of your Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo of the world, right? And you can just simply hook up your wallet address, links to a username, and it's gone and away, right? So again, going to a Cash App, you have to, I mean, as you would know, Carmen, the old way of sending money is we'd have to get our account number, we'd have to get our routing number, we got to make sure we get the account number, the routing number that we're sending it to. And those numbers better be right because if those numbers are wrong, you're certainly not getting that money back. It's the same exact thing. We're just simplifying something into less steps.
I love that. Well, I definitely have my Carmen Crypto adapt like username taken. So there's only going to be one and nobody else is going to take it and there should be no future mistakes. So I've already laid that down. And luckily I found you guys earlier than later so that I could take that, right? But that's
Yeah.
exciting because then you can like build these brands for yourself and again, it's about leveraging technology to help perpetuate relationships that can occur, right? So if I want to do business with somebody, I want the least amount of steps in order for them to say yes, and I wanna make that onboarding as seamless as possible. So as we continue to evolve our technology, these are things that are gonna help, like, take away the challenges that are just mundane, right? Having to go back and copy and paste things, and it's just like, "Yes, we made a deal, send it this way, good to go, confirmed." And, of course, the power of the blockchain means that I'm not waiting days for it, it's gonna happen immediately. So the more and more that we develop processes like this, we can get on with life.
Yeah, you really honestly hit it on the head even more. Imagine you're driving down the road, right? And I have to pay you for something. Instead of you having to pull over and send the wallet address or waiting till later, you can just say, okay, adapt me at Carmen Crypto and I'll look and make sure I get the money later. Click, boom, done. You're done. You don't have to worry about anything else. So ease of
I
use
love
and
it.
simplicity is everything in this world. Everything. If things aren't simple, they'll never be used.
So some big things happened for Affinity, in the past couple of weeks. You wanna share what that looks like and what's the future holding for your token?
Absolutely. Yeah. So this past weekend in particular, we did get listed on the SafeMoon Swap and Wallet. That is the first step in our what we like to call a strategic partnership with them. What does that mean? Of course, we're not just going to use this term partnership unless it is going to benefit both companies down the line. So we do have, or I should say, we will have a hand in each other's products going down the line, whether it's short, medium, long term, as you can probably speculate to and know to what they have coming out and what we have coming out. Again, we will have a hand in both sides. So we're looking forward to working with them more. And, you know, two heads are better than one, always. And we talked about this earlier. If people came together and people were more open instead of trying to just rug pull everybody and think about themselves, the space would boom. And it could honestly boom in probably less than a few months if those people actually put their positive energy together and try lifting it up. But off my tangent there, I am super excited to where we can go with them. And also last week, what we released was the mobile app. So we did release on YouTube, which we can you can find pinned to our main Twitter profile at Affinity BSC on Twitter. You can see that YouTube video of what our mobile app will closely look like. I say closely, obviously, because it's just the visual mock-ups. It's not everything to a T, but that is the general idea on what it will look like. We did release that, and we are super excited. We're still very on track to have that released by the end of Q1 2022. We did decide, if anybody, and you would even know this, Carmen, being you've been around a while, originally we were going to do the Affinity wallet powered by Adapt. We cut the wallet out. After going to Cryptopia, we realized that everybody and their families is trying to make a wallet, which is awesome. To each their own. Everybody's going to have their own spin off on it, but we're not going to do that. And these guys agree with me, as I even preached here. I will always, always, always talk about this Cash App of crypto because that is the simplest form of sending fiat to date. And we really just want to replicate that, but for crypto. So we cut out the wallet and we have made simply that the simplest form of sending cryptocurrency to date. You'll be able to simply go in, select who, how much, and it's gone and away. Um, so again, we did drop the release of that. We are constantly running, whether it ads on BSC scan, search engine optimization and marketing is always being done. We have AMAs. This is February 7th, so we have AMAs today, Monday, and throughout the whole week. We are keeping the hype going as much as possible and spreading the good word of Affinity going forward. Simply put, we're just putting our head down. We're trying to get this mobile app out so people can really conceptualize what we're trying to put out there. And from there on, it's going to be working on all the little products that are really going to make our ecosystem flourish.
That's a lot of great, great news for not just your project, but for the people that are invested in it. Congratulations on your listing with SafeMoon, future partnerships to be announced. That's fantastic. And then also the vision that you guys have. Like, it's great to hear when projects, don't just do something to do it, but determine whether or not that's a great move. So when you remove something that you anticipated you wanted to do, that keeps you flexible and adaptable. That's a term I use so much, but now every time I hear it, I think of you guys. We had that huddle where we probably said it like 72 times in it as a fun way to raise some DBT funds. So I
100%.
constantly think, adapt, adapt, adapt. It's
Rich
an
is a
inside joke if you
firecracker,
ever.
that's for sure.
Yeah, he is. It was a huddle. We do these like twice a day, and you guys were one of our season contestants. And somebody bet Rich, who's our community manager, that you couldn't say adapt too much, and he said it 72 times in an hour span. And I don't think you guys knew it was coming, but there was a
Nope.
a money bet on how many every time he said it, somebody on I think in your community had to buy DBT, which was funny. Just
Yeah.
and so now it's constantly in my head. But Zach, it's been a fantastic hour getting to know you and your story. We haven't talked about these things before hitting the record button. So I love doing it this way because I just find that there's a heart and passion that people have in crypto. We have so much similarities, but we're really out there teaching people, what to expect in their journey. And hopefully this is teaching them some really great, takeaways because I'm learning a lot every time I sit down with you guys. So thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking and hanging out with the DYOR community. I appreciate it.
No, and I appreciate it equally. Honestly, we've appreciated you guys since our investors had originally asked me to, apply for the burn contest, and even though we may not have won, we always enjoy the connections that are made because those are more valuable than any money that could have been made throughout this. Just being able to sit down with you now was worth being on the contest beforehand. So, and I speak for the entire core team when it comes to that. If you want to look about anything else on anybody who's listening would like to hear or see anything more about Affinity BSC, uh, you can, that's exactly that on Twitter, Affinity BSC. Our website is infinitybsc.com. If you are bad at keeping up to social media like I am, then when you go to our website, there's a subscribe button that will pop up for our weekly newsletter so you can stay up to date with anything and everything Affinity related without having to stalk our socials or pay attention every single day. So whoever may listen, I appreciate you for listening to me rant on with Carmen and spread the good word of crypto and everything it may bring to this space.
Awesome. Yeah, best of luck to Affinity. I'm sure we're going to remain connected. It's projects like ours that are showing that collaboration of projects in this space will lead to future success and positivity in crypto. So, thank you again, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Carmen.
What a fantastic conversation that was. Thank you so much to Captain PoundTown, aka Zach, Chief Marketing Officer of Affinity, and also a huge shout out to DYOR Token. Do Your Own Research Token is making it their mission every day to educate, equip, and empower new investors in the cryptocurrency space, helping them to avoid scams and adding positivity to the cryptosphere. We'll catch you next week, guys.